The auction that changed everything, the twin suns of the Dracos market, beat down on the dusty streets, turning the air into a shimmering haze. The smell of metal, sweat, and alien spices filled the open space. Traders shouted prices, strange animals hissed from cages, and crowds moved like a restless sea. Reelan moved through the noise with his hands in his pockets. He was a retired soldier, now no uniform, no orders, no battles to fight. He had come here for one reason, to trade a few spare ship parts for food supplies. That was all, nothing more. No trouble, no heroics, but trouble had a way of finding him. He stopped when he heard the sound of heavy chains rattling. A crowd had gathered around a raised wooden platform. In the center, a group of aliens stood in a line, their wrists and ankles bound with metal cuffs. The auctioneer, a tall reptilian with gold rings on every finger, shouted out numbers in 3 different languages. "Fresh stock," the auctioneer barked. "Strong bodies, healthy minds, perfect for labor or pleasure." Ryland's jaw tightened. He told himself to walk away. Slavery wasn't his problem. Not anymore. He had fought his wars. He had seen enough death and cruelty to last 3 lifetimes. He had earned his peace. But then he saw her dot. At the end of the line stood a young alien woman with silver blue skin and deep violet eyes. She looked tired, but not broken. Her gaze swept over the crowd until it met his. For a brief moment, her lips moved. No sound came out, but he read the word clearly. Help. Something twisted in Ryland's chest. He took a slow breath, trying to shake off the feeling. The smart thing would be to turn around. The safe thing. The thing a retired soldier should do. Instead, he pushed through the crowd. The auctioneer grinned. When he saw him, "A human buyer? Rare. These ones will serve you well." Ryland kept his voice flat. "How much for all of them?" The crowd murmured. No one ever bought an entire lot. The auctioneer laughed. "All of them? My friend, you have expensive tastes." A bulky alien warlord, standing near the front, growled. "I was about to buy the blue one. Step aside, human." Ryland didn't step aside. "Name your price." The auctioneer's eyes gleamed. 2,000 credits. "Done," Ryland said. Without hesitation, the crowd gasped. The warlord's face twisted with anger, but the auctioneer raised a clawed hand. Sold. Within minutes, the chains were unlocked, and the aliens were herded toward him. Some looked confused, others afraid. The silver-blue woman kept her eyes on him the whole time. Ryland handed over his credit chip. His stomach churned not from the loss of money, but from what he had just done. He hadn't planned this. He didn't even know where he would take them. The warlord stepped close, his breath hot and foul. "You've made an enemy today, human. Those were mine." Ryland's voice stayed calm. "They belong to no one." The warlord's eyes narrowed. "We'll see." Ryland led the group away from the platform, weaving through the market until they reached a quieter street. The silver-blue woman walked beside him, her hands still rubbing the raw marks left by. "The cuffs. You bought us," she said softly. "I bought your freedom," Ryland corrected. Her brow furrowed. "Freedom? You're not slaves anymore," he said. "You can go wherever you want." The group exchanged glances, whispering in their own languages. Finally, the silver-blue woman spoke again, her voice low but certain. "In our culture," she said, "when a male claims females from the auction and protects them, it is a binding choice. We are yours now." Ryland shook his head. "I don't want you to be mine. I want you to be free." She tilted her head, studying him as if he were speaking nonsense. Then she said something that made him stop in his tracks. "Husband." He stared at her. "What?" She didn't smile. "You are our husband now." Before he could reply, Shadow moved at the end of the street. Figures emerged, 5 armed thugs, their faces hidden under black hoods. They carried blasters, and their leader pointed straight at Rylan. "You've got something that doesn't belong to you," they leader said. Rylan glanced at the aliens behind him. They were tired, frightened, unarmed. He stepped forward, his voice cold. "I think you're mistaken." The leader smiled. "No, I'm not." The silver-blue woman's hand touched his arm. "They will kill you." Rylan's eyes narrowed. "They can try." Asterisk strangers under one roof the alley smelled of oil and dust. The armed thugs moved closer, their boots scraping the ground. Rylan could feel the tension in the air, sharp and dangerous, like the moment before a battlefield charge. The leader raised his blaster. "Hand over the girls, human. Walk away, and maybe you keep breathing." Raylan's mind calculated distances, cover, and timing. The old soldier in him, buried deep, rose to the surface. "Last chance," he said quietly. "Leave. Now." The leader laughed, a short, ugly sound. "Or what? You're one man." "One man is enough," Rylan said. The fight exploded in seconds. Rylan dived left as the first blaster fired, grabbing a metal pipe from the ground. He swung it hard, knocking the weapon from the nearest thug's hand. 2 more charged him. He slammed one into the wall and swept the other's legs out from under him. The leader aimed again, but Rylan's hand found a loose brick, and he hurled it with soldier's precision. The blaster flew from the man's grip, clattering to the ground. The thug stumbled back, realizing too late this retired human still fought like a war machine. They retreated into the shadows, cursing promises of revenge. Silence fell. The alien stared at him with wide, unblinking eyes. "You could have let them take us," said the silver-blue woman, her voice almost trembling. "I could have," Rylan said, "but I didn't." They followed him through winding streets until they reached his home on the far edge of the settlement, a small, worn house with a metal roof and a single light flickering in the front window. Inside, it smelled faintly of coffee and machine oil. There was little furniture, a couch, a table, a few shelves lined with old war medals and dusty books. "You can rest here tonight," Rylan said, pulling blankets from a storage chest. "Tomorrow, we'll figure out where you want to go." The aliens didn't move. Instead, they huddled together, whispering in their languages, casting him cautious glances. Finally, one of them, a tall woman with green markings on her cheek, spoke. "You saved us. In our worlds, that makes you bound to us." Rylan sighed. "I didn't save you for a reward." "You think it's a reward?" Lyra the silver-blue woman asked. Her voice had an edge now. "It's duty. We are yours. That is our way." He rubbed the back of his neck. "Well, it's not my way." They spent the rest of the evening in tense silence. Rylan made a pot of food-simple stew and set bowls in front of them. Most of them ate slowly, as if unsure the meal was truly theirs. Later, as the house grew quiet, Rylan sat by the window, staring out at the dark streets. He saw movement in the distant shapes watching from the shadows. The warlord's men weren't done. They were waiting. Behind him, Lyra's voice broke the silence. "You should have let us go." He turned to face her. "Go where?" "Back to the ones who chained you?" Her eyes locked with his, intense and unyielding. "You don't understand. You're in danger now. Because of us." "I've been in danger before," he said. "Danger doesn't scare me. Losing people does." Something flickered in her gaze, something between respect and confusion. But before either of them could speak again, a loud crash echoed from outside. Raylan was on his feet instantly. Through the window, he saw 3 shadowed figures moving toward his door, weapons in hand. The warlord hadn't waited after all. Asterisk. The attack in the night, the door shook under the first heavy blow. Wood splintered. The silver-blue woman, Lyra, jumped to her feet. The others froze, their eyes wide in fear. Raylan moved fast, his voice low and firm. Back room, now. When? No one moved. He barked it again, sharper. They obeyed this time, vanishing into the narrow hallway. Another crash. The lock gave way. 3 armed figures stormed inside, 2 with blasters, 1 with a jagged blade. Their leader's voice dripped with malice. The warlord wants what's his. Rylan didn't answer. He just grabbed the edge of the kitchen table and kicked it over, using it as cover. The first blaster fired bright blue bolts, scorched the air. The room smelled of burning wood and ozone. He rolled to the side, yanked a metal wrench from a toolbox, and hurled it at the nearest attacker. It struck the blaster hand with a sickening crack, sending the weapon clattering across the floor. The blade-wielding thug lunged. Rylan sidestepped, grabbed the man's wrist, and slammed him into the wall. The blade fell, and Rylan kicked it away. Another blaster shot tore through the couch where he'd been a second before. Humans, one of them snarled. Always so stubborn. You have no idea, Rylan muttered. He lunged forward, tackling the shooter. They crashed into the table, breaking it in half. The third thug backed toward the door, clutching his bleeding hand. This isn't over, human. No, Rylan said, his voice like ice. It's just starting. The thugs fled into the night. The door hung crooked on its hinges, letting in the cold air from the hallway. The alien women stepped back into the room, their expressions a mix of shock and awe. One of them, a quiet, pale-skinned woman named Sayla, spoke first. You fought them for us. I told you, Rylan said, breathing hard. Nobody takes you while I'm here. Lyra stepped closer. You risked your life. Again. He looked at her. You think this is about me being your husband? No. This is about right and wrong. But she didn't look convinced. Her eyes held something different, now something that made him uneasy. Before they could speak further, a sound rose in the distance. Deep, echoing horns. Not market sounds, not random noise. A call to arms. Lyra's face went pale. That's the warlord's signal. He's sending more. Many more. Rylan tightened his grip on the wrench still in his hand. His soldier's instincts whispered the truth. This wasn't just about defending his home anymore. This was going to be war. Asterisk, the journey to sanctuary. The horns faded, but the night air still carried the weight of danger. Rylan stood in the wreckage of his front room, looking at the alien women gathered near the hallway. We can't stay here, he said. Lyra frowned. Where will we go? There's a human-controlled colony 2 days' travel from here. Rylan replied. They won't hand you back to the warlord. If we move fast, we might make it. No one argued. They could all feel the clock ticking. They left under the cover of darkness, slipping through narrow alleys and abandoned loading docks. The settlement behind them glowed faintly under the twin moons, but in front of them was only the empty stretch. Of the WASTELANDS, the ground was cracked and dry, littered with the skeletons of strange alien plants. Somewhere in the distance, a low howl carried on the wind. Lyra walked beside him, her hands still wrapped in the blanket he had given her. You fight like someone who has lost many things, she said quietly. He didn't look at her. I fight like someone who doesn't want to lose anything else. At dawn, they stopped in the ruins of an old transport station. The group huddled in the shade while Rylan searched for food and water in the collapsed building. He returned with a dented canteen and a small bag of dried ration bars. Share it evenly, he said. The green-marked woman, Tressa, broke one of the bars in half and handed it back to him. You need strength too. Rylan gave her a small nod of thanks. For a moment, they ate in silence. The only sound the distant hum of wind across Metal Dot by midday. The wasteland heat was oppressive. Ryland's old soldier instincts made him check the horizon every few minutes. It saved them. Down, he ordered suddenly. They dropped into the shadow of a half-buried cargo hauler just as a patrol skimmer swept overhead. Its black hull bore the warlord's crimson crest. Lyra's breath was shaky. "They're hunting us." "They'll keep hunting until they find us," Ryland said, "which means we don't get found." When the skimmer was gone, they moved again, faster this time. That night, they camped in the husk of an old shuttle lying half-buried in the sand. The stars above were sharp and endless, and for the first time since leaving the market, some of the women laughed softly among themselves. Sayla sat near Rylan, tracing her fingers along the rusted metal floor. "You could have left us," she sighed. "I could have," Rylan replied. "Why didn't you?" He thought for a moment. Because freedom should mean something. Even out here. Lyra, listening nearby, tilted her head. In our worlds, a male who defends his chosen females like this is already bound to them. Raylan gave her a small, tired smile. In my world, we call that friendship. But deep inside, he wondered if maybe the line between the two was starting to blur. Near midnight, Raylan woke to the faint sound of engines. He crawled to the shuttle doorway and saw them 3 fast attack bikes. Lights off, moving slow but steady toward their position. He grabbed his pack and shook Lyra awake. "They found us," he whispered. "We move now." The group scrambled into the darkness, running toward the distant glow of the human colony's defense towers. Behind them, engines roared to life at full speed. The chase had begun. Asterisk. The choice the desert wind tore at their clothes as they ran. Sand crunched under their boots. Breath came in sharp gasps, and behind them, the sound of the attack bikes grew louder. Raylan glanced back. 3 riders, armed and fast, cutting through the night like shadows with teeth. They were gaining, this way. He shouted, leading them toward a jagged ridge of black rock. The alien women followed without question, their fear burning into silent determination. Lyra kept pace beside him, her violet eyes fixed forward. "We can't outrun them forever." "We don't need forever," Rylan said. "We just need enough time." They reached a narrow canyon, a place where the cliffs closed in tight. Rylan stopped, scanning the walls. Loose rock, unstable ledges. Yes, this could work. He turned to them. "Remember the moves I showed you? The grips, the strikes?" Tressa nodded sharply. Sayla's hands trembled, but she set her jaw. Lyra stepped forward. "You trained us to survive. Now let us prove we." Listened. The attack bikes roared into the canyon mouth. The first rider didn't see Tressa until she stepped out from the shadows and slammed a broken pipe into his steering column. The bike spun, throwing him into the rock wall. The second rider swerved, right into Sayla, who ducked low and drove a metal shard into his leg. His weapon fell. She kicked it away before he could recover. The third rider dismounted, blaster in hand, but Rylan was already there, closing the distance. A swift punch to the jaw, a twist of the wrist, and the blaster clattered to the ground. The man spat blood. "You think you can win against the warlord's army?" Rylan's eyes were cold. "I'm not trying to win. I'm trying to make sure you lose." He knocked the man unconscious with a single strike. Silence fell over the canyon, except for the ragged sound of breathing. The women stood together, shoulders squared, weapons in hand. Rylan looked at them, really looked, and saw something different. Not captives, not victims, fighters, survivors. Lyra stepped forward, her voice steady. "In our worlds, when a male fights beside females, shares food, protects their lives, and bleeds with them, He becomes more than protector. He becomes one of us, ours. Rylan shook his head. I told you before, this is not about chains, she interrupted. This is about choice, and we choose you. The others nodded in silent agreement. It wasn't a demand. It wasn't a custom forced on him. It was their decision, freely made. Rylan stood there in the cool desert air, caught between his old life, a soldier with nothing left, and this strange, unexpected future. Finally, he let out a slow breath. All right, he said. We see this through, together. They gathered what they could from the fallen riders and moved on toward the faint lights of the human colony. But Rylan knew one thing for certain. When the warlord came for them next time, they would be ready. A new beginning. The first light of dawn broke across the desert as they reached the gates of the human colony. Tall metal walls rose before them, topped with watchtowers. The faint hum of shield generators filled the air. 2 human guards stepped forward, rifles in hand. Rylan raised his hands. Refugees, he called out. They're with me. The guards scanned the group. There. Eyes pausing on the alien women. One of them frowned. You've got trouble on your tail? Rylan's jaw tightened. Not anymore. But trouble might try to follow. The gates opened with a hiss, and they stepped inside. The colony was alive with early morning sounds. Shopkeepers lifting shutters. Children chasing each other down. The narrow streets, the smell of fresh bread mixing with the tang of engine oil. For the first time in days, the alien women weren't looking over their shoulders. Some of them even smiled. Rylan found a small, unused building near the edge of the settlement. It wasn't much, a few rooms, a working water pump, and a roof that didn't leak, but to them, it was freedom. That evening, they gathered around a table made from scrap wood. Tressa laughed for the first time, telling a story about her homeworld's festivals. Selah hummed a soft tune in her own language, filling the air with something gentle, something safe. Lyra sat across from Rylan, watching him with that same unreadable gaze she had given him at the auction. Finally, she spoke. We are free because of you. We are alive because of you. And we choose to stay because of you. Rylan shook his head. I didn't plan this. I didn't even know you yesterday. Maybe not, she said. But sometimes the people who save us are the ones we were meant to find. The room fell quiet. Outside, the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in deep gold and violet. Rylan leaned back, looking at each of them in turn. You're safe now. But safety isn't forever. If the warlord comes, we will fight, Lyra finished. All of us, together. For the first time since leaving the military, Rylan felt something he hadn't felt in years. Purpose. Later that night, he stood outside, the stars sharp against the black sky. Footsteps approached. Lyra stepped beside him, her violet eyes reflecting starlight. You freed us, she said softly. But you also freed yourself. Rylan looked at her for a long moment. Then, with a faint smile, he nodded. Yeah, I guess I did. The wind carried the smell of fresh rain from somewhere far away, and for the first time in a long time, Rylan didn't feel like a man running from his past. He felt like a man walking toward his future. Asterisk.